Okay.
Don't shut the door. She shut the door. Why are you shutting the door?
The fan's so loud out there.
But it'll get hot in here. When it was open before,
Can't hear me.
it was hot when we came in here and you guys had the door shut.
Would you like to shut the fan off out there?
I suppose.
That seems
We
like a
probably
better
get- Yeah, we
compromise.
probably
You're
could
gonna
get
better airflow that way.
If you put the fan in front of the door to pull the air out, would that be better than blowing it in here?
Yeah, I'll put this in here.
Okay. All right.
I'm no engineer.
Well, I'm not either, but that's what I do with my
I
house.
pretend I am.
Okay.
I forgot you
Doesn't that
are.
make sense?
That works. All right, so Amy, any communication or are we good?
No.
Okay.
I mean, I have an engagement letter for the auditors to sign.
Yep.
That's a standard everything and just your signature.
Yes.
You'll notice, by the way, I pointed that at you guys, not at me.
Thank you.
Just saying.
All right, now on to, and I can tell too, thank you. Now on to monthly reports. Which would be you, Ms. Ames.
All right, well, you have everything in here as of right now. It is all preliminary. We still have many things we have not received yet. We have some Board of Ed journal entry reclasses. Part of it is our fault. The auditors reclassed something from AP to interfund last year and we didn't notice. So we did our reversals this year and didn't notice. And then as I was reviewing all the balance sheets, I had negative AP and I'm like, so how did that work? So there's things I need to look at. There's many bills we haven't gotten, almost none of the professional services. There's no lawyer bills in here yet for June. There's no professional services engineering, or they haven't gotten that far yet. And we will take bills all the way through August. So even though you have June numbers, they're very preliminary. They're what we know of as the second. We have our accounting rules allow us for anything that happens in the first 60 days of the year that relates to last year, whether it's revenue or expenditures, gets pushed back to last year. Because we do a modified accrual basis of accounting for government requirements.
So I have a question.
I see that.
So is it possible to put in another column for like accruals or for knowns so we have an idea of what the projected end is? I mean, I appreciate that you have a lot that's left over, but or to be booked, but it would be really helpful to look at it even at a preliminary stage if you had some estimates in.
I mean, a lot of stuff, I have no idea what's out there. I don't have contact with the lawyers. I don't process any of the legal bills until they walk into our office. So I would have no idea what their bills are going to be for the month of June or May and June. I mean,
Well, I mean, I've worked in a lot of businesses and that's the department head's responsibility to communicate that. If we ask that we're trying to get our arms around what what our year end is.
Yeah, but the accounting rules say it has to be 60 days anyhow, so it doesn't really matter.
It's just really hard to look at something that's not, that when you,
Well, I could not give it to you. I could wait until September. I mean, that would be the alternative. That's what we did in hand. No, but you guys did not get June financials until September when they were done.
I'm just saying,
So-
I don't know how much work that ask is, but it seems that it would be a lot.
It'd be great if I had a budget analyst, but seeing I don't, and it's just me, it would be a ton of work.
Right.
Because I don't even know what's out there.
And I think too, Barb, and not to interrupt, I'm sorry, but I come from a background of doing financials, and we do it with accruals through the hotel. Like I let them know what's coming. But one thing I've learned on my years here in municipal, it just isn't the same, and it doesn't click the same. So it is a lot more work than it is in the norm of a normal operating. I know the selectmen love to say, Charlie Szymanski's famous for saying, in a business, but municipal is so much different than a business. And the only reason I'm saying that is years ago when I started, I didn't believe that. But I've learned that over the time, and it's not, it just
So
is
basically,
different.
we're cash basis all the way till June 30.
I understand that,
We record whatever we have for
but-
cash, we record whatever we have for bills. And then June 30 is the only period of time where we wait and push things out. Do a bunch of reclasses. Board of Ed just gave us a slew of reclasses to their other funds, to their grants, to their cafeteria, to their FRC. I mean, There's just a lot that's going on that I know nothing about. I can tell you we'll be in the black. I can assure you of that. There's nothing out there that I'm like, oh my God, we're so close that if we get one more bill, it's gonna dump us over. So that I can tell you, we will be in the black. But I can't tell you at all. And I definitely don't have the resources to do that.
Anybody else, questions? Concerns or? All right, so there's no more on that. It goes on to transfers, which
There's a way long big one. We
Yep.
talked about this last month.
we did.
This is getting us from our 2% budget back to referendum 3, less warehouse point. We did a couple other things. We did give warehouse point library their 2%. We did put the extra money in pavement management or road resurfacing, whatever the account happens to be called in this account. But essentially, this is referendum 3. But this is, all 6 pages are what needs to happen to make that happen. And it is tied to a big spreadsheet, which we did look at in the board. I have it printed here, if somebody really wants it. But, so what I did is took what all the referendum 3 was, what 2% looked like, and what I needed to do to get it back to an adjusted budget. So every single account was analyzed and looked at, and that's where we get these 6 pages of transfers.
And these are budget transfers.
This is a budget transfer for 1920.
So there's nothing in there that, you presented this at their last meeting.
It is exactly what I
And it's
presented
just-
at your
just
last
written
meeting,
up in
other than
official.
the change for DPW.
So the K-9 is still in the police department?
Yes, it is in many different lines. It is in overtime, it is in supplies and equipment, it is in, somewhere else. Professional services maybe is where the debt portion is. Okay. So yes, it is still in there.
We could use as a block.
Huh?
This could be a block motion, correct?
Yes, I think so. I mean, it's one transfer. I did it as transfer number 1.
Yes, I see that. All right. Say we need to just
You
line
can
by line.
you can get hoarse if you have to do that one at a time.
Yeah.
You're all tonight.
That's right.
I think in the past they might have done them individually by line, but when I looked at it, I was like, there's no way. Even by department would have been difficult. So I did it as one big transfer, gets us to a referendum 3.
I'll move we approve transfer request number 1 for fiscal year 2019-2020, to move the items as presented in referendum number 3.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. On to number 2, social services.
So this is, I presented to you last month for the month of June for a long-term vacancy. Well, that vacancy has now become a permanent vacancy. So, but they still have the need for part-time bodies to be in those offices when they only have one other full-time person. So they have a vacancy now of a full-time person. So this just stacks them until they can find another full-time. The job is posted.
So is this is written up on the top, it says 18-19, and it says number 2.
Oh, sorry,
So
it's
this is a
1920.
Okay. That was,
I cheated and copied the one
Oh, that's
that
fine.
was on last month
I
for
just wanted-
1819.
looked at it at home, I was like, wait a minute, this is something.
And then the support behind it actually has both pieces,
Yep.
and it's the exact same support I gave you last month. It showed the top portion and then the bottom portion. So I gave you the exact same support, but this is for the 1920 portion.
I'll move to approve transfer request number 2 for the fiscal year 2019-2020.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Alright. We have Board of Selectmen updates and referrals.
have anybody here.
Bob's not here, I think he's called.
No,
No?
he's at the police commission.
Oh, police commission. Okay. So, I will, well, you know what, we'll get to, board, okay, board of selectmen, doesn't matter. Because it's in the board of selectmen section. If you can make their meeting tomorrow night, I think that you should. If you notice, there's been an addition onto it that says added appropriation for Warehouse Point Fire Department. There is some in the beginning too that you're gonna be there for too.
Yeah, there's two pieces. I'm going asking for a waiver of the bid process for the Munis
Yeah,
software.
yeah.
And then the CIP group is coming for their allocations. They allocated the $900,660 on Monday night. So they're asking for the Board of Selectmen's approval for that.
Okay. And how did that turn out?
That went fine.
Or the night before last?
Basically, we have, it's actually really nice. Instead of the 1.5 million that they asked for, they're only short like 220 because what you guys did is an additional appropriation for 400,000 plus the 900, we're covering 1.3 of the 1.5 asked. So it gets a lot more projects done than we've ever been able to do in the past.
So who?
So what's
terrible
left?
to say this, but who
Who
lost?
got left out? The fire department got left out.
Right, they didn't get their 100,000 towards their truck.
But-
DPW got only 400,000 of the 500,000
Yep.
that was originally approved for their pavement management, and the
Oh.
dog pound for 20,000 are the three things that did not get funded.
Okay, and as far as the fire department, that's something we're looking at later
Bonding
on to bond anyway, so.
Yeah, the fire truck, yes.
Yeah, so
That's why
really
we-
they didn't.
Right.
Wow, so that was pretty,
It was
Though
pretty.
Charlie
good.
commented that he thinks it should be a lease purchase.
what?
But
He wants
Amy
the
corrected
fire
him and
truck.
explained that it costs more money that way, and it makes
And
more
we're gonna be
sense to
bonding
bond.
anyhow. We
Right.
have other things that need to happen. We have
Yeah.
some roofs that need doing, we have roads that we wanna do besides the fire truck.
Right.
So it should be a combination. It costs about $75,000 to bond. But if you do it right and don't do it for $1 million at a time, it's more cost beneficial to do it as a bigger dollar amount.
Right.
Over in multiple projects.
Yep.
And the letter that I sent to the board of, well, I sent it to Bob, Mayor, that the CIP committee suggests that the fire truck be bonded.
Alright,
So that was our
so that went well.
recommendation.
So that's what you're doing tomorrow night, but like I said, they also added on to their agenda the Warehouse Point Fire Department, but I've asked Amy to stay there for that too, because there's just,
I don't know
we don't know what they're,
what they're thinking. They
Yes.
already taxed for their whole 1.4 mils, got them their whole $660,000 that they wanted. So I'm not quite sure why they would be coming back for an appropriation.
well, and on top of, the problem would be, from our perspective, it would be very hard for them to come for an added appropriation after they were in all three of the budgets, and all three of the budgets failed. So that would be very difficult for us to, it would,
I just don't know why
I
they
don't
would
know,
even need
I'm not
one.
sure what it is.
If they've already taxed for everything they need for the year,
Can't be
I'm not
perfect.
sure why they would be asking for an additional appropriation.
Or where would we get it, because we don't have a lot of money left anymore. We kind of used it, which we needed to use, but we're at Amy's threshold of enough is enough. So, you know, we need to, you know, that's our policy anyways, we're not gonna break our own policy, so. I'm not sure, but I think it's important if you can be there tomorrow. It seems that it's gonna be a lot of things going on tomorrow night. So, if you can be there, be there. All right, so that would be my Board of Selectmen update. And on to Board of Education updates and referrals.
I can pass out financials for you guys.
Yeah,
Yes.
all I have really is what's on there.
Yeah.
And I just want to clarify one thing, because as I read it, I thought, I hope nobody misunderstands this. Andy put the amount of, our balance on the Board of Ed side against the cafeteria, expected cafeteria balance, but I think there's still money coming in there that is not here, so I don't think that number is like final until we get the reimbursement. I'll let you and Andy clarify that, but I think that's where it's expected to be. It's just until the physical money shows up from the state. I don't know that it might not tweak a little in some direction or another.
Okay. All right, so I'm just going to the final line rather than read the whole thing.
Oh, yeah.
It says, therefore, of the $260,000 approved by the town as of this date, only $91,348.67 will be needed. So, and you're thinking that will go up or?
No, I'm thinking it should pretty much stay there. I mean,
Okay.
he's got, I think he can estimate the state payments fairly well, but until it's physically here, I wouldn't swear that we have that down to the penny, you know?
And the other money is, there's 91,000 left in operations that he was gonna reclass expenses out of cafeteria over to the general fund, and I'm gonna ask him to go the other way, to move that money as an additional contribution to the cafeteria, so the cafeterias and all their expenses all stay in one place. I don't want part of the expenses moved to the general fund and get lost.
Okay.
I'm gonna ask that instead of moving the expenses from the cafeteria over to the general fund, to spend the rest of the general fund money, to move the money as a transfer over to the cafeteria instead.
Which would make sense because you can see everything that's gone out of your cafeteria.
Yep.
Okay.
So there will be the 91 that he's talking about, the 61 plus the 29, plus there will be the other 91. So actually $180,000, only 91 of the surplus will be going over
So
to the cafeteria.
the
It's the 62 from last year plus the 120 for this year. So the surplus, the deficit in the cafeteria between the 2 years is $180,000. But they can cover 91 out of operations, and the other 91 is coming from this additional appropriation.
You just
Everybody
made a few
understand that?
enemies there, Joe.
Does everybody understand that?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. All right. Anything else, or is that just it, Kev? Kind of.
Yeah, we haven't even started this year yet, so nothing to tell you on FY20.
All right, on new business, Open Space Commission had requested that they speak to us, so I have put you on the agenda, so come on up. Sure.
Copies. Yeah, packets, I know. So the Conservation and Development charges the Conservation Commission with advising the boards in the town on conservation issues. And town recently used a major portion of its open space fund to partner with the Department of Agriculture to purchase agricultural easement on a piece of prime farmland. And the open space fund needs to be replenished in order to react to opportunities that may come up in the future. And so we're trying to figure out how that can be accomplished. And now due to aging farmers and holders of large real estate parcels in town, as well as changing priorities for land use, we think it's important that the land resources be preserved now that come up, have possibilities of being preserved. And so open space is not unused space. It's farmland, which is ultimately food security and recreation and biodiversity. The Scandic River and Broad watershed corridors are significant and should be protected. And other natural resources and scenic resources around town are also worthy. So we feel that the Open Space Fund is necessary to react timely to things that can be used for purchases, that are also used for surveys and appraisals and things. Should there be opportunities to be investigated, those are all preliminary to actually proposing a purchase. And so those are short-term things that you have money in place for. And we think that for major expenses, then bonding would be another alternative. It's been suggested that we should have a ballot question to survey public support for bonding or setting money aside for open space. And so ways for the town to leverage funds, like the purchase of the agricultural easement that just happened recently. That's a Connecticut Department of Agriculture 30 acres and over program for partnering. The town is required to put in 25% of the cost of the development, a portion of the property's worth. and the state picks up the rest. And the land is then sold for its agricultural value. So that has all been transacted with the property in Rice Street. And ensures that it will stay in agriculture and it stays on tax rolls and somebody else is taking care of it. So we think that it's a better way to go than the town actually owning property that has to be maintained and dealt with. There's an under 30 acre program too, the community farms program, which is also a 25% match for the development value of the property. So that's for smaller parcels that are, it's limited food production, food and fiber production, not just land in general. Those are two ways to buy easements, which the town is well placed to enforce easements because they have the eventual sale of the property and taxes and fines can be levied if the easements are not held to. And there's a way to leverage the town's money for purchase of open space with the DEP grants. So it's environmental protection, and those are usually happen once a year, and they're up to a 60% match for the purchase of property. So that would require a larger portion of the cost of the property. But I'd like to brainstorm with you to see what we think might be a good way to replenish the open space fund.
How does there's the open space fund is funded through the fees that you
Fees
pay
in
on
lieu
a
of-
property transfer, correct?
Yeah, and also recording fees. There's a small Community Reinvestment Act.
Yeah. Okay.
So that money, the money that we had was about $250,000 in round numbers, and that was accumulated over 30 years or so.
And then
We currently have $51,727.43, and that's on page 8A19 in your
Anybody
packet.
else want one of these?
I'll take one and do it on the next one.
And then-
Don't worry about it, not.
I think I did.
There's plenty.
also
What am I missing then?
if someone builds in town and they can put money in that fund by
Building closer density than
yeah,
is allowed.
there's so that's the only way that this fund gets funded, and other than the town putting money in it, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so developers or through the fees, the Community Development Act, or recording fees, or whatever. That's what I thought. But
Yeah. One way to do it is with a line item in the budget. Some towns have a percentage of the annual budget, which is put into the open space fund. Windsor has $200,000 a year, that's a line item, because then their budget's bigger than ours. That's another way. But capital expenditure would be a way, or down, the money we had in there was enough to buy an easement on a 117 acre property, which is pretty good size. There are properties twice that big in town that would be good to preserve for their agricultural value.
Would we be able to do it more like what we do when they do capital, and that's put just a certain amount aside each year, or request a certain
Well,
amount?
that's what it is.
each-
It's actually in the
Okay, yeah.
CNR.
So that's what I'm
So, yes,
saying, that
it
would
could come
probably
through
be the
capital.
process to do it, is my guess.
Yeah.
Because we can
Problem
get
is,
2%
the $1
to
million,
go,
the $1 million that we put in now doesn't cover what it should be covering. As we saw, the
Right.
request was 1.5,
Yep,
and we put 800 or 900,660 in. So unfortunately, there's already other requests too that take up more than we even fund ever. So that's the only concern with putting it in capital.
right.
So we have language here from 5 other towns that have referendum questions on their ballot, asking the public about bonding for, and they say bonding, and South Windsor passed 3 referendums for bonding, although I talked to the town planner in South Windsor and they never have actually bonded for any of the purchases they made. They made 4 purchases and they've done it all other ways, so I'm not sure exactly how that does work, but the language for the referendum questions is fairly simple in most cases. And it does mention bonding, but it's just a,
That would definitely not be a this year though, because they had a huge discussion last week on how, at the charter revision meeting that we were at, that they are concerned right now already that in November, that there is not going to be enough space on the ballot for candidates and for the 14 changes that they want everybody to vote on. And I guess you can only do two sides. You can't like staple two pieces together and, shoot it through the machine. It doesn't work that way. So Angelo had stressed to them that they need to condense.
they can make some more type.
Yeah, no. The charter revision needs to condense the number of, like, making 14 changes out of context of the entire document, which people will not fully understand. Like, when you ask a question, take for example, I know this one keeps coming up and it's true. Do you want to make the police commission a department of the town? That seems like one that you would say yes to, but truly you want to say no, because you want the police, that would nix the police commission, that would nix your checks and balances, which is trying to happen. But there's so many questions that on top of doing selectmen, board of selectmen, board of finance, whatever, then there are 14 questions. It is not going to fit on a two-sided document. So they don't even know how they're going to get that to fit this time around. They left it as an open-ended really that night because it just was like, you guys have to do something because everything's not going to fit. And you can't have two stapled pieces together. And as the registrar of voters said, is you're lucky, even though every person that walks through, they all say, turn over your thing, there's a second side, turn over your thing, there's a second side. People turn it over sometimes, and then sometimes they do forget, and sometimes they turn it over and go, I'm not answering all these questions, and just shoot through the thing.
Should be separated somehow at least, just so you know what's.
And we can't, so I guess you can't do that either. You can't like say, okay, go through and do your municipal voting and then now do the charter.
Then you need another machine for that?
Yes, he said you need another machine, you need another, yeah. So it was a whole big discussion. That's kind of a bummer. They're gonna be taking up a lot of our ballot.
Poorly thought out plan. So good.
Huh?
Poorly thought out plan. Who the fuck
Yeah, I don't know what's gonna happen. I don't know what's gonna happen. So not that it's a bad idea, but it's probably not an idea that will hit this year because I don't think that
Doesn't
will
make
us
sense to
on.
have a separate referendum for one issue.
No, not at $5,000 a pop.
When they do the conservation and development every 10 years and they sample people's opinions, it always comes out that people want to preserve the rural character.
Yep.
They're willing to spend a little bit of extra money to do it.
Yep.
And the only way you can really make that concrete is to have a ballot question where people
Right.
actually
Get to choose.
record their answer.
Well, the CIP route would be available because that will be coming in August because it's due to the CIP commission, I think by September 15th, Kathy?
Say that again?
CIP commission, everything's due to you September 15th?
That was, last year, I think the date was September 14th, but yeah, so right around
I
there.
think that's by charter. I think those dates are by charter.
Yeah, it probably moves a little bit.
So if
It's
you're
probably-
going to do a request through CNR, you want it to the CIP commission when the process,
Yeah.
yep, when the process is happening in August and September.
Is that the ballot?
No,
meeting?
that would be replenishing, so that's not a bonding, that's the replenishing, so you have some kind of money
Right, to work with.
to work with if something comes up.
Yep.
So you would put a request, so I think you have two different things.
You're
One
right.
is, do you guys want to bond $2 million so
That's
you have
a bigger issue.
availability for open space? Or we need some kind of money to work with, either small purchases or development rights or grant matches, and we'd like to put in and request X dollars.
Right.
And I don't know if you do it, you can do up to 5 years, right? It's your first year and the next 4. So you could put a game plan together on what you're thinking to get it to what level you're thinking.
Okay.
So that would at least be considered on that part, because
So when
voting
is-
sounds like it's
when
definitely
you-
out for November.
Who do I talk to about that?
Amanda will be sending it out, so just make sure you're on her list
Okay.
Yeah.
when Amanda sends it out to
I
everybody.
can give you some information
Yeah, talk
ahead
to
of time
Kathy.
too.
Okay.
I think that, I just think that's the best route for now. I think that's the only route for now. Go ahead.
Well, I'm a big agricultural space person, obviously. And I know it wouldn't work because of our issues this year, but I would hurt my feelings if there was a way to eventually put, it doesn't have to be a huge amount, but just to be able to take care of some surveys and all, if there was a line item in the budget for $10,000 or $20,000 annually to this fund, because I mean, there's definitely some parcels of land in this town that I personally hope they are able to stay in agriculture and be preserved if they, do come available.
We have used that in the past, we've used the open space fund for that in the past.
But I don't know how, when the budget comes up next
That
year,
would be-
maybe,
yeah.
we'll see, but it's.
But I would definitely, I mean, the immediate one would be go to CNR route because that has to be in by September 14th.
And that money doesn't go away, which is kind of
Right.
nice. Where if you do a line item in the budget under them,
That can
and
go
they
away.
don't spend it, then it goes away. Goes back to general fund.
Right.
Where at least in the CNR, if nothing comes up this year, you haven't lost it.
Yeah, well, I'm not talking, I mean, like I said, surveys or whatever, I mean, if it's, even if it's $5,000 or $6,000 a year, it's not a big, well, it's some people's money probably, but it's not a big thing that, at least you're not using your money that you're trying to set aside for the actual purchase of the land to cover the expensive portion of what has to happen to make it happen, so.
Where would that go, like where we put cemeteries and that
No,
kind of stuff?
probably right in the conservation line. They
Okay.
probably have a line for their recording secretary, would be my
So we would
guess.
be able
Do you have a
to,
line for your recording secretary?
Yeah.
so we would
So
probably be
below
able to
that,
put
you would have a
something in
line,
there.
just like EDC
Yep.
has a line.
Okay.
They have a line for
No, no,
professional
well, there's an
services.
open space fund now, could we just replenish that, or is it, that would have to?
Well, the open space fund that you have right now is
That's
is in the CNR. That's where that money
So
was
it doesn't
spent.
lapse at the end of
So
the
it
year.
doesn't lapse. So you have that money,
But
that's where you would
planning and
ask,
zoning is that they hold the purse strings for that, as I understand it anyway.
well, technically, they're your staff department,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
Your commission falls underneath them.
Mhm.
But I can't imagine that isn't something that when you come forward and say, this is what we want to do, that it wouldn't be something that would be entertained.
I would think.
I mean, I'm assuming your commission makes a recommendation and then it goes to the Board of Selectmen. I mean, how did the state of Connecticut one come about?
Oh, yeah, this has to be approved by the Board of Selectmen and town meeting.
Right.
And,
Do you go to planning and zoning though and
So
present
we-
it to
we-
them or?
Well, we go to planning zoning first and then to Board of Finance in this case.
Okay.
And then the Board of Selectmen.
Okay.
So I'd say if something comes up in between now and you feel like it's important, you should definitely bring it forward.
Yeah.
I mean, because there are options, there are places like additional appropriations, there's other options for something that's a more immediate need versus a long-term plan
Right.
to come up with funds, and you do have some. You have 51, and I think the only thing not paid out of there yet is the Sabonis property. I don't think it's been paid yet, I don't think we've closed on that yet.
Okay.
So of the 51, like 17 is spoken for.
Yeah.
But that still leaves you about 30, so if you needed a survey or you needed appraisal or something,
And that
you would
the
have,
planning office first is really hard.
well, I would say whatever you go through your normal planning process to determine that you're gonna do something would be the regular process you would go through.
There's nothing on the forefront right now, but
Yep. But I would definitely, the first thing would be to get on capital so that you can put more in the CNR, that you can put more in there and get on their list of. and we'll go from there. Sound good?
Good.
All right, perfect.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much. All right, unfinished business. Capital improvement plan policy review. Capital asset policy is after. I kind of laugh at this, we've been going over this policy and stuff, and from November, if they make that charter crazy with 1 million policies in it that should not be in it, it's gonna be insane to have these policies intermingling, but. All right, so capital improvement plan policy review. This is what Amy brought up to us because she.
Well, we have a conflict. We have two
Yes.
called capital assets. We have a capital improvement plan policy, which kind of just spells out what capital is supposed to be for. It actually spells out the parameters that the capital committee uses to rank the projects and score them and come up with sources of funding and proposed expenditures. So I don't think anything needs to happen to this policy, and if you look at it, it was actually Board of Selectmen approval in 11. So I don't think that anything needs to change on the capital improvement plan policy. I think what's happening is what's stated in here, but we have another one called capital asset policy, but that one's really a capitalization. That really tells us how long we're going to depreciate the things for the financial statements. It breaks down a little more because this front one says it has to be $20,000. Projects must be for town-owned or leased property with a cost in excess of $20,000. That's the second line on the thing, under the first line under criteria. So that sets the floor that you cannot put something in the CNR that is not $20,000. Which we talked a little bit about as we did budget and whether we were approving things or not. But the capital asset policy tells me what I'm going to have to report as a fixed asset. And this eliminates things like computers. So we buy $200,000 of computers for the Board of Ed. None of them get capitalized because they're $600 and something a piece, $700 and something a piece. So none of them actually get capitalized because machinery and equipment has to be $7,000, improvements have to be $20,000, and infrastructure has to be $100,000, which would be roads or sewers. So this is getting them on the books and depreciating them strictly for the financial statements that are in the audit. That's all this policy is for. But I think the name is misleading, and it makes people think there's more than one capital policy out there, and there's really not. This is just really the capitalization. So all I'm asking on this one is to change the name to capitalization policy instead.
Right.
Can
All right.
I ask you a quick question about the CIP policy?
Sure.
Is the dates that people have to, departments have to have their
That's in the
requests
charter.
in, and then that we have to go to the Board of Selectmen, because that time period in there,
It's tight.
it's super
Well,
tight.
you guys are supposed to be appointed by August 1st.
Yeah, but we can't do anything until we have the requests.
No.
So-
But you guys, what happened last year was you guys were.
No, that was the year before. Last year, we were appointed.
But not
before-
August 1st.
No, not August 1st, but it doesn't matter, because in all honesty, we can't do anything until
The
the
September
departments
15th.
submit their
Okay.
stuff.
So you're saying
So
from
they
September
submit it.
15th to November 1st isn't enough? think
I don't
it's
even think we
charter.
had till November 1st, maybe. But by the time Amanda gets all the paperwork, puts books together for us, that's another week that elapses. And then we need to try to cram in all those meetings to meet with all the different departments and still write up something for the, it was very, very tight with, a 9-member board and trying to get everybody present at meetings. I don't know if there's anything that can be done about that timeline through the policy. It doesn't sound like it, it sounds like it's all out of
I think it's
charter.
charter,
Yeah, all right.
and I don't have the charter, but I think it's August 1st, you're supposed to be appointed by, everything's supposed to be to you by September 15th. So maybe on our side, maybe.
No, it
Amanda
comes
knows.
here by September 15th, it doesn't
Yeah.
come to us.
Well, no, that's what I'm wondering. I'm wondering if that September 15th date is to you guys. So if
So maybe
Amanda
we should be
pushed
starting
it
earlier.
back, so if Amanda pushed it back to September 1st from the staff, but that means she needs to do it pretty soon,
Yeah,
so that they have time to
so
gather
that they
their
have time
stuff.
to get it
But I'll
together.
look at the charter language, because I think it's to you guys by September 15th, so then you have 6 weeks to turn it around. So if we move the staff deadline earlier.
That would help.
That would help, but I think the charter has both August 1st for you guys being appointed, September 15th for projects coming to you, and November 1st back to the Board of Selectmen.
And I think
Which we didn't
technically,
meet,
we
I don't
didn't make
think.
the
I
date
know.
this time.
It was a little after
It was a
November
little
1st.
after by the time they actually got it, but it was in time for their first November meeting, so, they weren't gonna do anything with it between November 1st and when they got it anyway, so.
They don't look at it until that day.
They don't really look at it at all anyway, so I'm not really sure why we.
So, do I have a motion to turn it to the Town of East Windsor capitalization policy?
I move that we rename the Town of East Windsor capital assets policy to capitalization policy.
Okay, is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
So the other two policies One is a Board of Finance approved policy, May 19, 2011, called Revised Budget Overruns and Added Appropriations General Rules effective May 19, 2011. And then there's a Transfer Supplemental Appropriation Policy that was done by the Treasurer's Department in 14. I don't know why there's two policies. Your first policy is just fine. I'm not sure what the second policy gains you in addition to it. But you guys did approve it in 14. And I don't know if when you approved it, you were thinking you were replacing it. But right now, they have two different titles and they're both out there. And I don't know, the treasurer's one just seems very cumbersome.
I feel like the transfer supplemental appropriation policy was done, I feel like, I want to say, I wish she was here, because she's our alternate, but I want to say, I feel like Danelle worked on this. I really do. Don't you remember? Didn't you work on a policy for like a long time? I feel like it was this one. Yeah, I feel like I would.
But I don't know what you gain. I mean, I don't need, my response to the department heads when they come looking for money that they don't have is where in your other lines can you cover it? So the general description says salaries needs to be salaries, operating needs to be operating. You can't cross the two. So you can't have a staff person out and use that salary savings to buy yourself a new computer. That's not how it works. Salaries have to stay within salaries. So in the police department, it's a perfect example this year. They had several vacancies. They had 2 officers that didn't start school until February or January. And then somebody else left in February, and then somebody else was on medical, and somebody else was on medical. So they had a lot of vacancies. So they have a lot of savings in their officer salary line. Well, they used it to offset overtime costs because the shifts still need to be filled. So that's the perfect example of how a transfer should work. I don't need them to tell me every week when they go to pay somebody that they're overrunning their overtime. I need them to tell me that they're going to be able to cover it out of this line. And same with on the operating side. If you tell me something's running over, I'm asking you where you're getting it from. I'm not asking to make transfers every time somebody runs something over. As long as overall the department is not going to be over, I'm not here asking for transfers. But if we truly have somewhere that they literally can't cover it, like assessor, travel was a problem a year ago. We don't have that problem this year. So, but a year ago that was a problem, and we came and talked about it because they weren't going to have enough money in their other lines to cover it. So we came looking for an appropriation. So that is the perfect reason why you come to me and you say, I just don't have any lines to cover it, and I'm going to need X dollars, and this is why I need X dollars. Things happen, and I'm fine with that. I do not need it in somebody's, which line they're taking it from, which line they're coming to. I'm not bringing it to you every month that way. It's overall, as long as their salaries don't overrun and their operating doesn't overrun, I'm okay with that. And then at the end of the year, we do this massive cleanup that we move things all around in between and within the departments to clean it all up. And then we have actuals that really got spent out of where they belonged, because then next year when I look at a budget, if I'm consistently over in a line, then we need to adjust that line and adjust down wherever we were covering it from. So if I keep everything actually where they belong and move things around, it's way better for me than making transfers or putting things where they don't belong, just because that's where the money is. So that's how I would rather run it. So I think the second policy would be very cumbersome with the thing that says they have to come and ask for a line item transfer from one line to another. And I don't know why they were doing it that way, but that would not be my preference. So I don't know the history on the policies. I don't know if one was intended to offset the other, but the first one covers more things than the second one. So I wouldn't want to do away with the first one, which is your guys' policy from 11.
Yeah. So what you're looking to do is keep the first and say goodbye to the second.
Yeah, unless there's anything really important to you guys in it that needs to get moved into this first one. I mean, we should be revising and looking at our policies regularly anyhow. This one's from 2011, so we're now 8 years in. So it doesn't hurt to look at it and talk about whether it covers everything it really should.
Right.
But yes, that would be my recommendation.
So why don't we take that and take that with us and everybody read both and see if you want to do some combination of something, or if you have something that you want to add, and we will talk about it probably in September though, because
That's fine.
we will not be here in August. Unless
There's
something,
no hurry.
Yeah.
It's just, as I was looking through things for
Yeah.
other people and for charter revision and the things that they were doing in charter revision, they were saying there was no bidding policy, which we do have a bidding policy. I didn't bring it to you guys because it's not your policy. It's actually the selectmen's policy. But there is a policy and it is followed, and we do require RFPs for things more than $20,000. So I'm not quite sure why people think we don't have that. It is there,
I
it's
just
all
want
in
you
place.
to know that we did bring up that, you know, you had responded to their request. And
I
then-
sent
and-
it to them. I
and
sent the policy
stated-
to all the charter and all the board of selectmen. That policy went to everybody when they said that we didn't have a policy. I then
All
sent
of
it
the
to everybody.
policy, the amount, I can't keep track of the amount of policies they're trying to squish in this charter. And policies do not belong in the charter at all.
And we have a policy that's good and works.
And we tried to tell them that we knew that you sent it and that you did not agree with it, but it's like knocking your head against the wall.
They didn't want to believe we had one.
Huh?
They didn't want to believe we had one.
No, I know. So, all right, so we'll review that, and when we come back in September, we'll, you know, work on it, guys, and see if you're good with just one, or if you want to combine it
They kind
too.
of say the same thing in different words in a way, really. I mean,
And they do,
So I thought
except
too.
that the second one has more of that line item coming and asking for line item between things, which, but it doesn't really talk about additional appropriations. I think it says that the charter talks about additional appropriations, where that first policy really spells it out,
Yeah.
how the steps have to happen. So if I had to keep one of the other, I would keep the first one.
yeah, no, just the read up I have, I mean, the first one seems like it's more detailed and it's more, the other one's kind of, to me, is a little bit wishy-washy, and I'm not a policy person. I mean,
So that's all I have. I would put that back on the September agenda.
All right, so we are now on to board member comments. Okay.
Okay, so since I am the liaison from the Board of Finance to the Board of Ed, on Wednesday, July 10th, I attended the Board of Education meeting. It was a very informative meeting. The fiscal year 19 budget was discussed, and as of June 30th, the Board of Education ended in the black in about $92,000, or 0.39% of their budget. The fiscal year 20 budget was briefly discussed. They've only made necessary purchases. Computers are on the way, as well as other items from the added appropriations. It is now the time when students enroll, especially in kindergarten. People are moving in and out of town, so right now is a critical time for the school system as to how their year is going to go. There was discussion of the cafeteria, and the results of the consultant report will be reviewed with the cafeteria manager, and we will soon get that information. Most of the discussion revolved around junior varsity sports, as well as the 19 positions, supplies, and programs that have been cut due to the budget not passing. There was discussion of pay to participate, also discussion of accepting donations to fund the sports program, as well as review of Board of Education policies in regards to that. The board did vote to accept a donation if one were to come in, and that did pass. A GoFundMe has been set up to go towards restoring junior varsity sports program. I did donate, and I encourage you all to do the same so they can reach their goal of $20,000, and it can bring back the program. If anyone needs the link or info to send a check directly to the school, let me know and I'd be happy to help. Also, July is Park and Recreation Month, and I'm proud to be involved in an event that is on July 27th at the East Windsor Park at 7:30. It's celebrating National Love is Kind Day. We will be honoring victims and survivors of domestic abuse. There will be refreshments, so I hope you can join us. Thank you.
Thank you. Kat? Bill?
I mean, I'm glad to see that you guys actually did finish in the black, minus the cafeteria fund, so,
Wasn't easy.
no. But, I
A
mean,
lot of things not done, but
I mean, it's what it is.
cut we needed to cut.
But, other than that, I don't have a lot more to say.
Okay. Karen?
I have nothing.
How's your, I know you can't say too much, but how's your pension board going?
Slowly. Yeah.
It's hard that we only meet quarterly.
Yeah.
Takes a long time to get anything accomplished.
slowly but surely.
Nothing to report.
Alan,
I do have a comment tonight. So I got a call and an email from Bob this week that I need to make a decision as to whether or not I want to, which board I want to stay on. As most of you know, I'm also chairman of Wetlands, and he got an opinion from the lawyer saying that the charter says that I can't be a member of the Board of Finance and any other board except for the pension board. So that you're covered there.
Thank you.
So anyway, I'll have to make that decision. It's my intention to resign from this board, as we're pretty well represented here, and the board of, and the Wetlands Commission is almost shorthanded at this point in time, so it would make more sense that I stay there. And we just kind of went through a whole process. They challenged my reappointment a couple weeks ago. They went to a lawyer for that, or actually went to the insurance company for that. We're covered. There's some things that people should know, but
okay.
so we're covered there.
Do me a favor, are you supposed to be appointed tomorrow?
Yes.
At their meeting, okay. So how about you hold that resignation until you're appointed
Yeah,
tomorrow?
I am not going to resign until I've been reappointed to the Wetlands Commission.
Thank you. So I will tell you, it is, okay, there is a quick little blurb within the charter that says if you are on the Board of Finance, you can serve on no other committee. The reason 2 years ago, how long have you been on this board now?
2 years, so it's kind of odd that it comes up now.
Yeah.
But
So 2 years ago, when Alan came up on that board, we had all discussed it and felt because he was not a full-time member, he was serving in an alternate capacity, that that was not the true meaning of the charter as far as, you know, because very rarely, except to take it,
That might
up.
be state statute though,
He
because
doesn't.
it was the same way again.
Yeah, I don't know, it's in the charter either way, but we had discussed it, we had gone through it. 2 years later now, odd, after you just went to battle to stay on wetlands.
the timing was very odd.
Yeah.
It was like, I can't get you here, I'm going to get you there, kind of. It was the feeling, and you know, that's just my opinion, my feeling of the way it all played out, but
Yeah, well, and I'll be honest with you, I was at that Board of Selectmen meeting when they decided not to reappoint you, and it was apparently obvious it was a point-blank vendetta from Steve Dearborn. So it really was kind of an obvious thing. It wasn't something that was, you know, a big secret. Everybody in the audience knew exactly where it was coming from.
yeah.
So I wish we could get past all this in this town someday, but I don't know about that. But just do me a favor, wait till tomorrow night and then you can tell.
Will do. And also, just to bring it up, that I am the liaison for the police commission, of the police department contract. We haven't met in quite a while now, so somebody will have to take that slack up if I do resign. When it does restart, which, you know, at some point in time it will restart, I'm sure. And of course, I can't share any more information than that, but
Yes, correct.
that's where that is.
Yep. Yeah, all righty. Well, that stings because you are a great member of this team, so.
Well, thank you. And I've really enjoyed, and I've learned from pretty much all of you, for sure. And I know that we've had our differences on some stuff, but like everything just gets talked out and decisions made based on facts. And I really do enjoy this board quite a bit. So it's been a pleasure, absolutely.
Yes, thank you. We are gonna miss you.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure you'll be appointed, but I just want that to happen before we go in. All right, so, like I said, reminder that we do not have an August meeting. Oh, so Huck, you can't resign until September. But we do not have an August meeting unless something comes up, and Amy will let us know and she will notify us. But as it stands right now, we do not have an August meeting. I just want you guys to all look at the awesome rendering of the splash pad. That is going to be, Joe, when are we thinking done with? If you wouldn't mind giving us a 411?
Next.
We're thinking we'll have it open for next summer.
Okay.
According to
But
our
breaking the
construction
ground like
schedule.
when?
Breaking ground, probably spring.
Okay.
We're in, you know, we're in the architect design and all that.
Yep.
I
And
do
we're
have a schedule
also-
for you all.
I just want to make sure that I do address it though, because I try to avoid Facebook, but today there was a question, what about the splash pad and what about the bathrooms, what have happened? So we know we're well underway with this, architect drawings, we're ready to go. What about the bathrooms?
Bathrooms are, we're just waiting for our final cost unit has been, we've decided on the unit. I can't tell you it's been ordered yet, but it's there. All the drawings, everything, we're just waiting for the final numbers. And that's gonna break ground as soon as, I mean, it's a modular unit, so
Yep.
it's
So
not
that
a
can-
long process for us.
Yeah, cool. All right, awesome. Okay, so, and that's
So will that be this year?
The bathroom? Oh, yeah, yes, absolutely.
cool. Time for soccer season?
We're hoping, that's what our goal is.
Cool. Awesome. All right, and like I said, if you can, I would recommend that you attend the Board of Selectmen meeting tomorrow night if you can. Just be there if you can. That's it for me. So if I can have a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
And a second? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
We are out. We'll see you in September. I'm sure I'll see you
Song.
before then. I will see you before then, no question.